Shalom, Will. Welcome to Israel.
Shalom.
So what's the occasion that you are here? Can you tell me what made you decide to come to Jaffa, Israel?
Anna. And my granddaughter, Livia, and my new granddaughter, Avra, and my son-in-law, Nir. They brought me here.
Anna and Nir and Evra and Livia brought you to Israel.
Yeah.
And we just learned a few minutes ago that you had a client in Israel, Telrad, long before Anna was born.
Yes.
So
I think before she was born, I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the date and see.
okay.
But it was 25 years ago.
So Anna is
10,
more than
20,
25 years ago.
10, 20, could have been 30 years ago.
Okay.
1980s, late 80s. I was probably here.
So what do you know? I'm starting from there, but what do you know about Israel before you becoming a consultant for Telrad, and how far is the reality that we are now sitting in Jaffa in Nir's and Anna's apartment, and you have an Israeli-born grandchild? How far away is that from your childhood?
Not
from
far.
Where you started?
It's not far. When I was in my early teens, I was an avid reader, and that was the first time I read seriously about the Second World War and the concentration camps. And I was surprised and mystified about how human beings could be so brutally cruel, disrespectful, and dismissive of other human beings. I think as an early child, I knew what it felt like to be dismissed. I knew what it felt like to be embarrassed and ashamed. And that was just a tiny, infinitesimal opening to this idea of a Holocaust. And in some ways, that has been a question that's been with me all my life, which is how can people treat other people poorly? I identified emotionally with the Jewish people at that time as a 14-year-old. And later in life, when I married a Jewish woman and had Jewish children, I felt like part of that was a statement of putting my position in the ground, that I'm with you. And being here is in some ways being at home in a humanitarian way, not in a spiritual way, but not a religious way. And of course, I know at one time Anna said to me, she said, when I was in grade school, we would go to Sunday school and learn about the Holocaust. Then I went to Africa in college and visited the detention, displaced persons camps of Gulu, which I think has 500,000 people in it for decades. And she said, and she learned about the genocide in Rwanda. And she said, I began to realize that Holocaust did not apply just to Jews. And it was an opening in her world. And it was a connection with me. And I remember the stories of how Israelis fought for independence. And I just love the rebel.